Hello and welcome back to my channel. I am Mercedes and this is the Frugal Life with Mercedes. Today we are going to talk about something that is called revenge saving. So it has been on the rise for quite a while now, but I didn't know what it was, and you guys know, like, people are constantly coming out with terms, whether it be financial or, whatever, and you might not necessarily know what it is, or you could be doing it and not even realize it. But revenge savings is particularly with younger generations, I guess mostly like Gen Z and some millennials, but I guess, anybody could do it, but it is on the rise for younger generations. And revenge savings is essentially making up for bad financial decisions. So let's say that you overspend, or you have been overspending for a long time, maybe with overdrawing on your bank accounts. You've got a really high car payment. You took a lot of trips, or, whatever financial decisions that in hindsight maybe weren't wise choices, because you're like, well, I spent all this money on this music festival or whatever, but I don't really have anything to show for it. Like, yeah, that was a great experience. And it's not necessarily that you regret that, but it's like, at some point, I think you have to be like, okay, but I don't have any money in savings. And, where am I going with this? And I think that even though this is a newer term, I feel like we've all had situations like that where it's like, I'm working, but I don't really have anything to show for it. And depending upon what your situation is, it's going to look different. You know what I mean? Like I said, it could be concerts, it could be cars, it could be trips. It could be like maybe you overspent when you bought a house and it's really kind of out of your reach, or, you've got a thing for purses and it's like you've got 20 purses that cost $1,000, but you don't really have anything in savings. And it kind of reminds me of like Sex in the City. Like, if you guys watch Sex in the City, at one point, the main character, Carrie, she is going to lose her apartment because she can't get approved for a loan. But she buys like $400, $600 shoes, and she has who knows how many pairs, and her friend's like, that's $40,000 like in shoes, but you're not going to have a place to live, and it's like that look in her face, like, I spent that much on shoes. So revenge spending is like kind of coming to that realization of, oh crap. So essentially what it is coming to the realization and then really aggressively saving. And it is a way to take control. It's a way to take control of your life, of your finances, of your future plans. And even though it has the word revenge in it, aggressively saving is never a bad idea. Like, I don't think it's ever a bad idea. But the drawbacks are if you don't really have a solid plan. So, especially if you're new to saving, like, how much should I be saving? Where do I start? Do you know what I mean? Like, where do I start? How much should I be saving? What percentage of my paycheck? Or what can I really afford to save? A lot of people forget about that, about the affordability of saving. So if you're completely new to saving, you have to have the money in the budget to save. I've told the story a million times that there was a point in my life where it was like, okay, I've got $20 to put into savings. And some people will be like, well, it's not even worth it at that point. But that builds up over time, and it was better than doing nothing. And then you have to kind of budget in those savings. So the drawbacks are if you don't have a plan, you don't know how to save, you don't know where to start. And also, like, you could be missing out on potential growth of that savings. So if you just have, like, let's say you just have a checking account So you're just like really monitoring your spending. And so your checking account's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. You're not going to be earning interest on that. Or if you have just a basic savings account, you'll get a little bit of interest. So if you don't have a solid plan, then you could be missing out on potentially a lot of interest that's going to help you reach your financial goals faster. And or where and who and with in what time frame do I invest with, and then you can kind of get in a standstill, and maybe you'll feel discouraged and you'll kind of stop saving. And another thing is too, if you don't really know what your goals are, like, are you saving to, buy a house? Are you saving to, do something, like what, to retire early or save enough, after a certain number of years where you can maybe quit that second job or whatever it is. You have to have a plan. So revenge savings is not a bad thing. But I would definitely encourage you guys, if you didn't realize that that's what you're doing, or if you've never heard of it, I kind of just wanted to drop that in what it is. But if you find yourself if you're like, hey, wait, that is me. I've been, I made some mistakes in the past and I'm really trying to get better about saving. And maybe you've come to a plateau, that might be why. Like, what are you putting that money into to begin with? And what is my plan? Where are we going with this? Like, do you have a master plan? And to tell you the truth, I don't think you always have to know the very end goal, but you want to have some sort of vague idea of what you're doing. Even if it's something as like, I want to, put money in savings because I'd really like to take a year off and buy a camper and travel the country. And that's cool if that's what your goal is, but you kind of have to have that in a savings account and have that be your goal. And that also, something that's really important, when you have definitive financial goals, it actually really helps you save. And I know also for myself, as far as debt repayment, it was really important for me to become debt free. And the reasoning is the most important thing to me personally, I have to say very top, is my freedom. So I wanted to be in a position where I didn't owe anybody anything, because I didn't want anybody to have, I didn't like being in a position where, Sally Mae was demanding X amount of money every month, and the car payment was demanding this every month, and the credit card was, you know what I mean? Versus when you're debt free, you get to decide where your money goes. Of course you got to pay bills and, things like that. But as far as creditors, do you know what I mean? And it really gives you that freedom. And if you're in a situation where maybe you have to leave a relationship, or maybe your job's gotten really sketch, you could leave because you're debt free and you have savings. So really, saving and getting out of debt, that is the cornerstone of financial responsibility. And for some people, they're like, well, yeah. But again, we've talked about on this channel, there are some people that are literally starting from scratch. They were not taught about money at home or at school. It's literally the blind leading the blind, especially if you're in a romantic relationship and neither of you were taught. And it's trying to figure out what's the best stuff. So I know when I first started out, I didn't even have a savings account. I was that person that was I was saving, but it was in my checking and just kind of sitting there. And then I opened up a savings account, and yes, you're not getting a very large return, but it is a start. Do you know what I mean? It's a start in the right direction, which is really important. And then from there, you can decide what you're going to invest in, gold, CDs, different investment opportunities, whatever it is, and make sure that they're legit and not pyramid schemes. So aggressively saving is always a good idea, but make sure you start off with a plan. What decisions can I make differently so that I don't regret my decisions? Because that's the whole heart of the revenge saving, is I've made mistakes financially and I want to better my situation. So recognizing the mistakes, forgiving yourself for them, and the moving forward is the savings and having a plan, and possibly opening up a savings account for the first time, or talking to a financial advisor because you've got a little bit of a nest egg, and seeing what your options are and what you're comfortable with, and having an end goal. What is my goal with this money? And that'll really help keep you on track, and you'll slowly start to see that money, get larger. And that's a motivation in and of itself. And honestly, guys, once you start saving, even if it's a very small amount, it becomes second nature. As soon as I get my paycheck, I have a certain amount that goes straight into savings before anything else. Do you know what I mean? And that didn't happen overnight. That is something that's been years in the making, but it really did start with $20. And then the next month it was like, oh, I've got $10 to put into savings. And the next month it was, oh, I've got 30. And that was because my income was so low and my debt was so high, but I was still trying to do something. And so don't beat yourself up too much about past financial mistakes, especially if you're new to the game. And never feel bad about how much or how little you are able to overpay on debts to get them taken care of, or how little you have to put towards savings, because every little bit counts. Okay, guys, so I hope that you got something out of this video. Please consider subscribing to my channel, and until next time, bye.